Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to the video. I hope everybody's night is going great. Overwatch League just ended. There were some exciting games today. We'll be covering those tomorrow morning in the video. Tonight, we're going to be talking about AKM, Dallas Fuel. He finally opened up and talked a little bit more about the whole Rascal situation, and he genuinely feels bad about the whole thing. He said he was a bad teammate, and it just opens up. So we're going to take a look at that, talk a bit about the Dallas Fuel, and then after that, we're going to be taking a look at MVP candidates. Now, what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to narrow it down to who I think the MVP for the regular season is DPS-wise, who I think the regular season MVP is for support, main tank, and off tank, and so forth. I kind of wanted to get the most valuable players per role done in this video, and then we'll talk about which one out of all of them is the most valuable in the entire league in the next video. So if you're new around here, guys, do not forget, smash the like button. Let's see if we can get it up to 3,000. Show your appreciation for this video if you guys enjoy my channel. Also, if you're new here, do not forget to subscribe. I upload Overwatch League content every single day. As well as that, guys, there's only 3 days left to enter the giveaway. I'm giving 10 Overwatch League jerseys. Click the gleam.io link in the description to be entered in. It's very easy. And let's go ahead and hop right into this video, guys. Alright, now to begin with AKM and the Dallas Fuel situation. There was this thread that was posted by somebody on Reddit. It was titled this: honestly, much respect for AKM, and this is what they said inside. I know this sub likes to trash talk AKM lately, but not many players would do what he did. He is not a coach. He plays Genji because they tell him to do that. And now when they are missing a tracer, he has to do his best to sacrifice his good name for the team. He could literally only play Soldier, Pharah, Kree, and Widow. So my initial thoughts on this is kind of 50-50. Yeah, you know, I do kind of feel bad for AKM because he is in a position where now he is forced to play that Genji. He is forced to play that Tracer. But previously, when he was getting hate initially for the Genji, kind of somewhat was his fault. It could have all been avoided if AKM and Rascal could have saw eye to eye and they were cool, which he kind of explains down below. So let's just hop right into that. AKM responded to this thread and said this: for the people bringing up the Rascal stuff, I just wanted to know that, yes, I did a really bad mistake with him. I was a bad teammate to him, and I apologized 1,000 times to him in private messages. Even had dinner with him. We talked a lot, and I explained to him how I saw things, and how frustrated and stressed I was with the whole situation. And I handled it the wrong way. Instead of throwing him under the bus, I should have tried to help him more go through his frustration, so he would have had me to rely on when he needed help. But I didn't, and I regret it. I kind of failed him in a way. We talked a lot, and he apologized too with the way he acted. I'm not going to go through details because we really talked a lot, and we both know what we should have done differently, so we can learn from that. He's a friend now, and one of the best players to play this game. I have no doubt he will bounce back and find the right fit for him in Season 2. Anyways, my point is, else from that big mistake I did with him, I've always tried to be the best teammate I could be for my team. I originally got picked up to be hit scan specialist, but I did everything my team wanted me to do in order to make things easier for us. Also, real quick guys, sorry to interrupt this, but let me know down in the comments below if I should, when I'm reading out these transcripts of what players said and the English is clearly broken, should I try to fix it or should I just read what they directly type? It's something I've really had mixed feelings on lately, and I'm not too sure if I should change it or not, because if I do change it, then it might seem that it's not directly coming from them and it's coming from me, and it's not really like felt from heart to heart. I don't know, whatever. You let me know down below. Let's hop back into it. I had to play a lot of new things like Genji or Tracer that I originally didn't know I would be playing. So I am not performing as great as I know I can perform on other heroes, so I'm sorry to the fans that I disappoint. I just gotta keep hard working to be the best I can be in order to get the fans' trust again. I just want you guys to know I'm the first person to be disappointed about myself regarding any recent performances, and my team is helping me a lot to go through that and get back to where I was. So I have a lot of initial thoughts about this, about AKM, about the Dallas Fuel management, even about XQC, which I'll explain throughout. But first, AKM, this is a very nice post by him. He doesn't go super into detail about how he failed his team and how he failed Rascal, but it is very apparent that he does feel remorse about how he acted, some of the things he did to Rascal, throwing him under the bus and all that. And then when you look at Rascal, he also feels remorse for how he acted. And it's unfortunate these two players, they were failed by the Dallas Fuel management. There was no translator there to fully help them both communicate to each other and explain how they truly felt. And there also wasn't a head coach who knew exactly what he was doing. He was more of a friend to the team, not a figure of authority to them, which is what they needed at the end of the day, someone to keep them in line. Oh, and not to mention how their head coach, Kai literally was in on the drama, and he threw Rascal under the bus as well. and that was just a whole mess. How on earth are two players on a team supposed to get along when their head coach is literally pitting them against each other publicly? That just doesn't make sense to me. KINGmykL should have been fired directly after that. I know after KINGmykL got fired, there was a lot of love for him and people were saying, oh, you know, it really wasn't his fault. I mean, thinking back at that situation, like, how could you actually throw one of your players under the bus publicly and pit him against another player? That just doesn't make sense to me. There's no way, shape, or form where that situation ends up good for you or your team. Like, honestly, it's just a deluded decision in my opinion. So, yeah, the management absolutely failed this team. The coach absolutely failed this team. The team was so underdeveloped, which does lead me over to XQC. He went through this very same situation. I'm sure XQC regrets so many things he did or said during his time on the Dallas Fuel and wishes he could take them back, but he can't. And at the end of the day, it would have helped him so much if he just had somebody, like he said himself, just someone who he could talk to, see eye to eye, and understand what he was going through. Instead, he just had robots in front of him pretending like they actually were having good conversations with him. Basically, from his own words, he just had people that were pretending like they cared about him, but they would never really go deep into the situation and try to figure things out and ease his situation. It was tough, and you just can't blame any of the Dallas Fuel players at the end of the day. Sure, maybe some of them have had bad performances, and they came into the league and Sure, maybe they did completely come into the league and unexpectedly were really bad. The fact is, the management put them in a shitty situation and didn't do much to help them. They didn't hire a full translator. They didn't hire an entire coaching staff. They barely just got a sports psychologist last week. Something that this team clearly needed from the beginning. And it was easy to tell. We were talking about this in January, how they needed a psychologist. So yeah, nothing has really changed for me. I stand by what I've been saying for the past 2 months about the Dallas Fuel management. They're a joke. Hopefully, I got my fingers crossed and I'm praying that Dallas Fuel's management learns from this. They have gotten a sports psychologist. They did fire KINGmykL. Those are steps in the right direction. And it seems like from their YouTube series they post about their team, they do want to take their time to find that right coach, and they understand they're in a position where they don't need to rush things anymore. They're completely out of season 1, and they need to start preparing for season 2. So it appears they may be taking steps in the right direction. So that's good for the players, and I'm happy, hopefully for season 2, they are back and ready to be a top team. And now let's go ahead and move on to the next topic for the video, guys. Alright guys, so I got my players for every single role, and honestly, this was extremely hard to do. There is so many good players in this league in every single role, and I honestly was just doing my best to find the most valuable. Now, what defines most valuable to me is consistency, how high your peak is, how flexible you are, and overall, how good has your team done. I think it's fair to say those are the main things that you should look at when you're looking at MVP candidates. And I can only imagine how hard it's going to be to pick just one of these players. So let's just go ahead and hop into it. I'm going to start off with the supports because I think they're the most obvious. For main support, we have Ark. He lives and breathes the words MVP. He is so valuable to this roster of New York Excelsior. We did a video about a week back talking about deaths. Who dies the most in the league? Who dies the least? Who has spent the most time dead? And Ark, out of 25 hours played, he has died the least, spent the least amount of time dead out of any player in the entire league. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's by a huge margin. And what's even more crazy about that statistic is all the players around him, like 1 through 10, 8 of them were Diva players. I think 1 was Snillo, 1 was Ark, and then 1 might have been Closer, and the rest were just all Diva players. I don't think anybody can disagree that Ark is the most valuable support player in the league. The way he enables his team, the way he keeps Jonak alive and gives him damage buffs. It's insane. So for that reason, he is my main support MVP candidate. Now let's move on to the flex support, which we just mentioned him, and it's obvious, J. Jonak. Jonak is honestly insane. The guy is a god. And you could easily say, oh, well, you know, if Ark wasn't as good as he is and didn't enable Jonak as much as he does, Jonak wouldn't be that good. Well, I don't know. If you put any other support in Jonak's shoes, I don't think he'd be getting as many kills as Jonak does, hitting as many shots, doing as much damage, not dying. Like, the guy dies the least out of any Zenyatta, and he kills the most, and he does the most damage. It's incredible. It's funny because Jonak and Ark both absolutely dominate every statistic for their role. And it's crazy. I would love to make them both the MVP of the league because without each other, they probably wouldn't be as good as they are. That's fact. But without each other, they would still be the best. So Jonak, Arc, those are my candidates for support players. Let's move on to the DPS players, where it got really interesting, and honestly, I struggled very hard. In Stage 3, Striker has proved he is the best DPS player in the league. He is the best Tracer. He is the best Junkrat. This guy is unstoppable right now, and literally, if it wasn't for him, the Boston Uprising would not be 10-0. Sure, just like Jonak and just like Arc, they enable each other. Boston Uprising's team enables Striker. But the way this guy hits his pulse bombs, the way he moves, the way he aims, he is all around the best Tracer in the league. If you look at individual Tracers, you can say, oh, they're really good at this, but they should work on this. If you look at Striker, it's like, damn, he's good at everything. I don't know what he should work on. Coming into the league, nobody really knew who he was, and there was a lot of hype around him from the Overwatch League players. They were saying he is really damn good, one of the best Tracers in the league, and we just didn't know what to expect from him. And he has been one of the most consistent performers so far. In Stage 1, he was a big reason why the Boston Uprising were hitting that 4th place spot, and they were looking really good. For some reason, he didn't get a lot of credit in Stage 1 or in Stage 2, and only recently in Stage 3, he has been getting a lot of credit and being recognized as one of the best players in the league, which is kind of ridiculous in my opinion, because he's been playing this good all season long, like hands down. The Boston Uprising literally just beat the LA Gladiators and finished 10-0 this stage. No other team has done that throughout the league. They are the first, and as I mentioned, it's off of Striker's back, so there's no doubt in my mind this guy has to be a DPS candidate. Oh, and by the way, for DPS guys, I kind of wanted to make it like Tracers, but now Tracers are playing a lot of Junkrat, they're playing Widowmakers. Really flexible league, so I'm just going to pick 2 DPS players overall. Moving on to that second DPS player, I have Prophet. And I know I'm going to get crap for this, but guys, he's been so damn consistent. Sure, the London Spitfire have had hiccups this stage, but the Boston Uprising had hiccups last stage. They didn't perform good at all. And throughout these bad performances by the London Spitfire, the most consistent performer on their team, the guy that has performed almost every single match throughout the entire league, is Prophet. And when they're at their best, Prophet is absolutely the best player in the world in my mind. He's not just a top Tracer, he's a top Genji, he's a top Junkrat. Anything this guy touches, he is statistically one of the best at. And this stage has really made me realize how good Prophet actually is, because of the bad performances by his team. For multiple matches this stage, he was the only DPS player on the London Spitfire. The only one. Hureg was doing absolutely nothing. Birdring, his performance was appalling because of his wrist injury. I don't know what it was, but he was not playing good during the beginning of Stage 3. And Prophet maybe had one bad match. That's it, one bad map. But every single other game, he was there and he's consistently performing. As I mentioned with the statistics, he's up there top 2 on every hero he plays. Moving on to main tank now, we have Fisher. This was tough, you know. Gesture, obviously one of the best tanks in the league. Mano, very good. Fate, very good. So many good main tanks in the league, but what Fisher did was incredible. It's an amazing story. He started off as a bench player on London Spitfire, which ironically, you know, he should have been a bench player. Him and Gesture are the best main tanks in the entire world. It was just unfortunate that they were on the same team, but also smart by the London Spitfire to recognize that and pick them both up. So London Spitfire, they sold Fisher. They probably wanted to send him somewhere where they thought he wouldn't have that big of an impact and the team wouldn't be that good. Well, they were wrong, because Fisher, he turned the Los Angeles Gladiators from a bottom 4 team into easily a top 6 or 7 team, maybe even top 4 at certain times. And this team has beat the London Spitfire twice. And that's off the back of Fisher and his strategies that he's developed to counter the London Spitfire. Just everything he's done for this team is incredible. I had decent expectations for him moving over to the Los Angeles Gladiators. I felt they'd be a little bit better of a team, but I didn't think they'd go from freaking 20% to 90% in less than like 2 weeks. It was so quick how fast these guys got good. I was watching an AMA that Super did from the San Francisco Shock, and he was talking about other main tanks in the league, and he kept mentioning how good Fisher was at his Primal Rages. And it's so true. Watching Fisher Primal Rage is like watching magic. The guy never messes up, and the way he can juggle other players is absolutely insane. So something that Fisher has on all of these other MVPs I'm picking is the fact that you can look at him and you can say, he turned a team around. Single-handedly, he joined a team mid-season and turned them around. No other player on this list can say that. And that's something that will really work into his favor. Now let's move on to the off-tank. And this was tough. There's a lot of good off-tanks in the league, and it's hard to really recognize which ones are having the biggest impact for their team and consistently performing night in and night out. There was 3 specific off-tanks that were really hard for me to decide from, and that is Note, Mako, and Bishu. I wanted to pick Bishu because what he does for his team, all the translating and that stuff, and every time you hear the comms, he's so hyped and he's trying so hard. And I do believe Fisher had a lot of help from Bishu in turning this team around. As for Mako, he's probably the most consistent off-tank in the entire league. He doesn't get too much hype around him, but he is pretty consistent and well-rounded. Then we have Note. which is the player I'm actually going to go with. And he just has the most unique story out of anybody in the entire league. It's honestly a Cinderella story in my opinion. Nobody knew who Note was when he got signed to the Boston Uprising, and for the people that did know who he was, they thought it was a joke. They were absolutely appalled. I'm not going to lie, when I saw Note was signed to the Boston Uprising, I was like, what the hell? Are you guys serious? That's got to be a joke. Note competed in like the tier 6 scene of North America, guys. Like, he was never on a solid team. At his best, he was on Toronto Esports, and they weren't even good. They couldn't make it into contenders. They were like a top 16, top 20 team in North America at best, and he didn't even last on that team. So when I saw he was signed, I was like, oh man, that's a bad move. You know, the rest of the team, they're undiscovered talent, but this guy, he's got nothing. He won't be good. My God, was I wrong. This Note is talking about it gives me chills. It's almost impossible for me to comprehend how damn good he actually is. And the main thing about him that I really like is he plays for the team. He does what the team needs every single game. Whether that sacrifices him getting kills, him looking good, being the star player. He's always protecting Gamsu. He's always protecting Nako. He's always protecting Striker. Whoever needs help, he is there right away. Then he's always hitting these clutch diva bombs and these 99 Koth rounds. It's just, the guy's a phenomenal player. His story is unreal. And I don't know, if he's not the MVP, that'd be crazy. He's a top candidate for me, and I think he's got to be a top candidate for everybody. So that's it, guys. Those are my MVP candidates. It's going to be hard for me to choose which one I actually think is the MVP. Obviously, we still have Stage 3 playoffs and an entire stage left to decide who's the MVP. Maybe I didn't even list the person who will win it. But these are the top people right now. Let me know what you guys think about it. If you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video. Let me know what you guys want to see next. Enter the giveaway, and that's it. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Peace.